Good afternoon. Here is the national news from BGI TV Current. I am Morire Rebila Lawal. The headlines first. Nigerians should endure suffering from subsidy removal for better tomorrow. Tinubu. Subsidy removal, FG approves 5 billion naira palliative for each state. FCT. 6,000 people displaced by flood. Banditry in Niger. Deputy Governor. NDLEA will intensify war against illicit substances in FCT. And on sports, panel clears Toby Amushon of doping violations, lifts suspension. The news in detail. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has asked Nigerians to endure the sufferings emanating from the removal of fuel subsidy as a price that must be paid for a better tomorrow. These pains are the pains of birth of a new nation. We know the removal of fuel subsidy has created some pains, and that is why palliative are being put in place. We can endure this for a moment. What we are going through today is for a better tomorrow. Nations are great because citizens have hope that tomorrow will be better than today, he added. The president was speaking in Abuja on Thursday at the public presentation of the book, Brutally Frank, an autobiography of elder statesman Edwin Clark. Represented by George Akume, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Tinubu also called on traditional rulers and politicians to sustain the nation's unity. The president said all hands must be on deck to realize a great nation and called for everyone to manage Nigeria's diversity for unity of the country. This country is structurally complex and structurally difficult, but can never be difficult to manage. Our plurality, our diverse cultures, languages, religion constitutes the source of our strength. The president, who noted that the country was going through a difficult phase, assured Nigerians that a new nation would be birthed. The president described Mr. Clark as a great man and an extraordinary citizen with a household name throughout the country. He noted that Clark is a part of Nigerian Legion, the Iroko of the South-South, and the Eagle of the nation. Also speaking, former head of state Yakubu Gowon, chairman of the occasion, said the presence of dignitaries at the occasion was deserving to a man such as Mr. Clark. My relationship with Mr. Clark family, unknown to many, has been enduring over the years and has been expressed in deep bonds of friendship and mutual respect. The period in which Nigeria emerged from its most challenging political turmoil was one that needed great dexterity and empathy in the arduous task of reconciliation, rehabilitation, reintegration, reconstruction, and rebuilding bonds of oneness. While recalling the days of how Mr. Clark was chosen as federal commissioner, Mr. Gowon said that there was no better Nigerian for the job of information minister at that time. The need to fill in the void created by Chief Anthony Enaho's exit was what gave Clark the job of minister in the government, which I headed. He became my confidant and voice of the government, fearlessly defending the government and projecting its image. I found comfort in discussing government and other issues with Clark. Similarly, former President Goodluck Jonathan described the book as a good political history book that most Nigerians would be desirous of reading, adding that it will be useful to young people. Mr. Jonathan said that Mr. Clark was a person whose vision for Nigeria was the security of this country and for the unity of this country. Also speaking, Senate President Godswill Akpabio said that the author of the book was a true leader statement and a phenomenal patriot. In his vote of thanks, the author of the book, Mr. Clark, called for the restructuring of Nigeria. Governor Babagana Zulum of Borno State disclosed an information at the Presidential Villa Abuja shortly after the National Economic Council NEC meeting. The federal government has approved 5 billion naira for each state and the Federal Capital Territory FCT to enable them to procure food items for distribution to the poor in their respective states. Thursday's development comes in the wake of the hike in the cost of food items and petroleum oil to the removal of subsidy on the commodity. In addition to the fund, Zulum said the federal government also released 5 trucks of rice each to the 36 state governors. Explaining further, Governor Zulum said the state governors are to procure 100,000 bags of rice, 40,000 bags of maize and fertilizer. He noted that 52% of the funds were given to the state government as grants, with 48% as loans. It is set up a committee made up of the Anambra State Governor, Charles Soludo, the chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum, Governor Abdulrazak Abdulrahman of Kwara State, among others, tasked with the responsibility of engaging with the leadership of the Nigerian Labour Congress (NLC) and letters push for palliatives due to the subsidy removal. Apart from Governor Zulum, Vice President Kashim Shettima, who chaired its governors, and other stakeholders were at the meeting. Members of NEC have been deliberating on measures to cushion the impact of the subsidy removal. NEC's most recent meeting is coming hours after the Nigerian National Petroleum Company (NNPC) Limited secured a $3 billion emergency crude repayment loan from African Export-Import Bank's Afremix Bank. The Deputy Governor of Niger State, Yakubu Garba, says flood and banditry have displaced over 6,000 people in the state. Speaking in Abuja on Thursday when he visited Engineer Mustafa Habib Ahmed, the Director General National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, Garba said there was a need for NEMA to assist the state in tackling the issues. He said flooding was causing serious devastation in the state. According to him, Niger State has been having issues of insecurity which I can't disclose here. Aside from that, the weather forecast of this year showed adverse consequences of flooding, which we have been witnessing in Niger State. He further explained that the state government had sensitized the people in the affected areas to relocate to safer areas so that they won't be victims of the flood. Responding, the NEMA DG Ahmed assured that the agency was ready to offer humanitarian assistance to states facing crises in the country. The FCT commander of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, Mr. Kabir Tsakoa, says the agency will continue to clamp down on all sources of illicit substances in the territory. Tsakoa gave the assurance in an interview while on Friday in Abuja. He said command has intensified raid of joint points and had made several arrests. Tsakoa also said the command and other security agencies have been engaging in joint operations to get rid of shanties, including black spots notorious for drug dealing in the FCT. He added that the raids would continue until drug merchants are pushed out of business in the Federal Capital Territory. Tsakoa said this was part of the strategic plan of the agency to drug supply and drug demand reduction. Continuous intelligence gathering in collaboration with other security agencies will not be left out, particularly at identified drug notorious areas like Wuse Zone 4, Area 1 Park, Torabora Banex, Apo Mechanic Village, Guaramba, Jabi, Karu Abattoir, he said. According to him, a sensitization program targeting workplaces, schools, government agencies, mosques, churches, and public places is also going on. This, he said, was to sensitize the youth on the danger of illicit drug consumption. He added that the agency has inaugurated the war against drug abuse in collaborating with communities and traditional rulers to reach out to more youth across the territory. To also intensify this fight, the drug abuse and illicit trafficking will collaborate with the media, especially radio and television, for discussion programs centered on consequences of drug abuse. We will also collaborate with the more NGOs to deepen the sensitization program, Tsakoa added. To end the national news is a sports story. Nigerian track queen Toby Amushon has been cleared of doping violations with a provisional suspension on her lifted. A panel of the disciplinary tribunal by majority decision has today found that Toby Amushon was not committed an anti-doping rule violation ADRV of 3 whereabout failures within a 12-month period, the Athletic Integrity Unit, AIU, said in a Thursday evening statement. AIU head Brett Claudia has indicated that the Athletic Integrity Unit, AIU, is disappointed by this decision and will review the reasoning in detail before deciding whether to exercise its right of appeal to the Court of Arbitration for Sport within the applicable deadline. The decision is currently confidential but will be published in due course. Amushon's provisional suspension has now been lifted with immediate effect. Toby Amushon runs the 100-meter hurdles at the Stockholm Diamond League on Sunday, July 2nd, 2023, In July, the Nigerian, who is the women's hurdles record holder, was provisionally suspended for missing 3 drug tests within 12 months and faced a 2-year ban if the charges were upheld. Our suspension was seen as a huge blow to Nigeria's chances at the competition. Following the development, the Athletic Federation of Nigeria, AFN, left out Amuson from the country's contingent to the World Athletics Championship set to begin on Saturday. But with Thursday's development, the medal hopeful will take part in the competition built for Budapest, Hungary. From that sports story, we've come to the end of today's national news. Before we go, some headlines. Nigerians should endure sufferings from subsidy removal for better tomorrow, Tinubu. Subsidy removal, FG approves 5 billion naira piloting for each state, FCT. 6,000 people displaced by flood, banditry in Niger, Deputy Governor. NDLEA will intensify war against illicit substances in FCT. On sports, panel clears Toby Amuson of doping violations, lips suspension. For more updates of our broadcast on YouTube, our handle is BGI TV Current. Kindly subscribe and click on the notification bell, select option all to access all of our broadcasts. On Facebook, Bagede Imo with Alawi Adibayo. Please like and follow the page. For advert placement of your goods and services, coverage of events and functions, please dial the phone number streaming on your screen. Thank you for watching. Jubat Mufida to all faithful Muslims all around the world. I am Morire Rabila Lawal.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.